In the year 40,000, the Imperium of Man rules over a vast majority of space, with its armored marines dishing out supreme violence and totalitarian authority for their immortal emperor. A being of supreme psychic power whose existence is dedicated to casting out a psychic map across space, allowing lesser psychics to traverse the galaxy. His existence alone is the key to the continuation of the Empire. But who is this man? Where did he come from? Some things are a mystery.
Boy, I sure do like that Baby Yoda. Maybe one day I can be in the Mandalorian. No, the Star Wars universe is so unbelievable. Who'd think there'd be a super powerful emperor who never dies ruling things from behind the scenes? Poppycock, I say. Mom! When's breakfast?
Move out and get a job.
Mom, I told you I'm an influencer. As soon as the first endorsement check rolls in, I'll be rolling in it.
Some things are a mystery, and for good reason. The truth is far too stupid.
Hello, promotional credit from off-brand Mexican Viagra.
Enjoy the show.
And welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Heinz. So what do you call a sprawling sci-fi epic where Marines in massively bulky suits of armor fight off frighteningly powerful aliens?
StarCraft?
Well, yes, but... Okay, what do you call a game set in the dystopian future, mixing heavy sci-fi elements with the races and classes you know from high fantasy?
Shadowrun.
Okay, there's also reality warping, cults of personality, and galactic monarchies.
I love Dune!
Oh, for God's sakes, today we're reviewing a comic book set in the Warhammer 40k universe. This is why we can't have nice things.
Warhammer 40,000 is a science fiction universe created by Games Workshop for their line of miniatures and tabletop gaming. The game was launched in 1987 and has become the most popular miniatures game in the world today. Merging the concepts of high fantasy, orcs, elves, and dark gods, with science fiction, psychic powers, alien races, and advanced technology, the universe has been expanded upon in a series of novels published by the Black Library, Game Workshop's publishing division. A universe on the brink of collapse as chaos gods seek to destroy the bloated and ineffectual Imperium of Man. The days of achievement are over. Humanity is merely hanging on, flinging its armies against the various races and powers that seek to shatter it for all time. Aside from the games and books, the Warhammer 40k universe has also seen the release of video games, action figures, and yes, comic books, with Marvel recently acquiring a license to begin publishing their own line of Warhammer comics.
Now, at the heart of the Warhammer 40k experience is the Marine, a soldier genetically engineered to be the perfect killing machine in the name of his emperor. But how does one become a Marine? What does it mean to dedicate your life to violence and fanatical devotion? How does one survive and even thrive in that life? Today we'll find out as we look at one such Marine when we review Marvel Comics Warhammer 40,000, Marneus Calgar, a 5-issue miniseries written by Keiron Gillen and drawn by Jason Burrows.
Marneus Calgar issue 1 opens with an exploding round fired into an enemy target and exploding, as exploding rounds are known to do. The self-titled hero, Marneus Calgar, is mowing down heretical killers in his blue battle armor. This turns out to be a flashback from the last time Marneus was on this planet. Currently, he's meeting with Adept Quintus Hexamar, part of the Adeptus Mechanicus, an order of scientists and statisticians who worship a machine god. He's been assigned to assist Calgar with rebuilding the planetary defenses following recent violent uprisings on this planet called Nova Thulium.
The thing you should know about the future is that there are a lot of stupid names. I mean, there's no one around named Jeff anymore. Where are all the planets that are named Terra and then they end in a prime number? And what is a Warhammer? Sounds like a made-up sci-fi weapon to me, by gum. The future. Ah!
Before they can get into the rebuilding effort, one of Marneus' troops informs him of an attack by a group of heretics. Marneus, Hexamar, and the Ultramarines head out to destroy them. On the way there, Hexamar is surprised to find Marneus is familiar with his work in life, but Calgar is master of the Ultramar subsystem. He knows all the tools available to him, and wants the Adept to plan out the most efficient defenses possible. Their ship lands, and then Calgar leads his Marines against the heretics. Afterwards, Marneus confesses he's upset to see his home planet reduced to this. We then flash back to a young boy named Tacitan running to find Marneus. A pair of young, well-dressed boys duel with Marneus as he draws first blood on Severan, as their friend Cato watches. Tacitin is Marneus' helot, or chapter serf, an indentured servant. A tutor has arrived. Marneus is scion of the richest family on the planet, and they want to train him to become a space marine. The highest honor, although less than 1% of applicants are recruited. His friends whine that anyone could become a marine with his advantages, but Marneus turns that on them. He's giving up his inheritance, he'll have no need of it as a marine, to have them trained as well, including Tacitin. They continue to moan that such an honor is beneath a helot. But Marneus points out that their earlier argument was being too rich gave him an advantage, so shouldn't being poor not be a disadvantage? They meet their tutor, a grizzled man with a cybernetic eye. He's Crixus, but he failed to become a marine, so how... Before Severin can complete the snide comment, his tutor throws a knife, nearly hitting him. Yes, he failed. His penance for that is teaching brats to become marines, but he has sworn on his life to make sure they either die or join the marines. They're going to go train on the planet's moon. The moon is cold and harsh, perfect for toughening boys up. Once on the moon, Crixus tells the boys to make it to the other end of the valley where there's shelter and weapons. Oh, and be quick, or the Amble will get them. He flies off and the boys are immediately discovered by the Amble, a hulking, giant insectoid monster.
No, please, be calm. Actually, the Amble is similar to some of the insect life of your own planet. Larger, of course, and by a higher degree of intelligence. Also, they like to mate with school buses, so never wear yellow around them.
Back in modern times, Marneus can't understand why the poorly equipped heretics would attack a planet en masse that they have no hope of taking. Elsewhere, 2 Adeptus Mechanicus are grabbed by men in power armor and thrown down in front of 2 shadows. Marneus continues to try and learn where the heretics are coming from. He'll need a headquarters, and the Calgar family estate is nearby. On Thulium Minor, the 2 kidnapped adepts are ordered to report in safe and sound. After doing so, they're killed. At the family estates, Lord Calgar decides to fortify the old homes. He has not been here since he left to train as a marine. In flashback, all 4 boys make it to base camp. Cato and Severin complaining all the way, though admittedly, Severin has reason to. Over the next few weeks, the boys are hardened by the extreme environment and challenges, being joined by new students, many of whom don't survive. However, Tacitin and Marneus begin to fall behind with their compatriots becoming teachers' pets. Tacitin knows he's holding Marneus back, but Calgar won't abandon a fellow brother. No marine would. So Tacitin dedicates himself to living up to Marneus' expectations. The boys realize that Cato and Severin and their lackeys are all just a little too cruel. Something about this training seems off. They wake up around the camp to find the other students missing, seemingly having entered a cave system that Crixus forbade them from going into. The caves lead into an abandoned base filled with dead bodies, and even further into more caves lit with candles. They come upon a cavern filled with heretics training the other students. They're then caught by Crixus. He's let his bitterness at not being made into a marine turn him to this dark path. He is a heretic whose visions led him to Lord Khorne and this dark altar. Luring the boys here was the final test for his students, so Marneus and Tacitin could be sacrificed to their god.
We sacrifice this worthy receptacle to the demon chaos god that is Khorne. I shall now end his life with the ceremonial dagger. Jeff, what the hell is this? Where's the ceremonial dagger? What do you mean you don't know? Do you have any idea how long it's going to take to kill this schmuck with this thing?
Hey.
Quiet you. I may as well get on with it.
Ow. 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 Marneus surprises Severin and frees Tacitin. They fight, but to no avail. Crixus stabs Calgar, and with no other options, Tacitin hurls himself and his friend into the dark chasm next to the altar. They land in a pool of black water, and Tacitin drags his friend and master out, but Marneus dies, knowing he won't be a marine. That idea is unbearable to Tacitin. He will take Marneus' name as his own, deliver vengeance, and become a marine. In the present, the former Tacitin and Hexmar stand before a plaque and statue dedicated to the true Marneus Calgar. He explains that the best thing about his childhood was knowing he'd get vengeance for Marneus' death. Later, Marneus leads his assault team to take on the biggest heretical threat yet, a group of marauders crushing a shanty village in their rolling war machine. Calgar crash lands on it and quickly liquefies a few heretics before the rest of his marines follow suit. He brings it to a quick end by roasting the leaders in the control room alive. In the past, the cult has found the original Marneus' body. Severin disappointed as he had a dream of killing Marneus himself. Crixus demands they find Tacitin. They need one more blood sacrifice before their ascension. Tacitin kills his way through his hunters. The rest of the children are lured out in pursuit, but Tacitin doubles back and using their own explosive, mines their lair before broadcasting a warning to the incoming marines. As he's setting bombs up on the altar, Crixus, Severin, and Cato return looking for him. They know he stole their explosives and must be planning something. His gun jams, and he tries to run, but is easily caught and dragged back to the altar, wondering whatever became of his call for help. Well, help has arrived. Crixus goes to strike the Marine down, but he's easily blown apart. However, his blood is enough to activate the altar. A portal opens, swallowing Saravan and Cato. The Marine pulls him out even as the cave collapses. In the present, Marneus is informed that the Calgar estates have been taken. Now, they strike back, like some sort of empirical force. Blowing through the walls of the estate in a tank, Marneus mows down the heretics, knowing that some of them must have spent millennia as Marines before breaking inside and joining this cult. In the past, the rechristened Marneus is one of 300 aspirants. The number drops when the Ambull returns to strike. The appraising Marines are more curious as to why this monster is on this moon than they are interested in stopping it from slaughtering the aspirants. Marneus, too, explains that Crixus imported it here for their training, and is allowed to call in an airstrike.
Okay, Alpha Team, this is LEG-76 calling in a strike. The target is locked and painted and drywalled. Transmitting coordinates.
Roger, LEG-76, missiles away.
Yes! Direct hit!
There must be some mistake. It looks like we just blew up San Diego Comic-Con.
Now they'll have to let me write a comic book. There's no one else who can do it.
You know we can hear you, right?
Oh, shit.
After the airstrike, 40 of his number are dead, but he sees the beast shredded by a Marine airship. Slowly, through environment and traps, the children are whittled down. Tacitin never falters. His oath to make the name of Marneus Calgar Marine has driven him to succeed and become a neophyte. In the present, the Marines have wiped out most of the heretics when Marneus comes upon a mutated armored monstrosity. He makes short work of it. This is his life's work, all he has ever wanted or known. While the prisoners are interrogated, Marneus has an opening in his schedule. He and Hexamar head to Thalia Minor to scout a construction site for future planetary defenses. From childhood, Marneus undergoes multiple surgeries and psychological conditioning to turn him into the ultimate killing machine. But eventually he is a year past when he should have been promoted and is approached by a female inquisitor. She wants to know about Crixus's cult. He tells her everything as she holds the power to destroy him, but ultimately decides he is of value to the Emperor and Marneus is finally promoted to the Ultramarines. On their way to the moon, Hexamar notes that 2 of his scouts never reported back. When he shows Marneus where they disappeared, for the first time, Calgar shows concern and orders a change of course. But before they can do anything, their ship is shot down. Marneus and Hexamar survive, but they are cut off from calling for help. Out of the snow, shapes appear. The Cult of Khorne, including Saravan and Cato, now fused into one demonic body. The duo-headed fiend gloats, but Marneus shows no fear. Then the Lord of Skulls shows up, a ginormous, undefeated battle mech. Deciding discretion is the better part of valor, Marneus destroys his crashed ship, providing him and Hexamar with cover. They need to call in the Marines and head towards the re-excavated cave used by the heretics when Marneus was last here. The past and present click into place for Hexamar. Hopefully the heretics' communication equipment is still in one piece. They find the necessary equipment, and Marneus leaves Hexamar to buy him time to call in help. The naturally battle-shy adept wants to know what should he do if he's discovered. This is where Tacitin made his first kill. He encourages Hexamar to do the same. Also, don't be captured or his torture will be worse than death. Knowing he's heading into a trap, the Nine-Invincible Marine takes on the heretics, only focusing on Saravan and Cato, who decide to bring a sword to a gunfight with an armored opponent.
Yeah, your rank-and-file heretic is not smart and usually totally expendable. That's why you need a vast number of these morons to get the job done. Seems to me there's a term for that.
Zerg Rush! Hexamar is unfortunately discovered and in imminent danger of a gutting when Saravan and Cato keep Marneus off balance with their sword work. They realize the altar is not here, but nevertheless Saravan's long-ago vision of impaling Marneus will come true, just with a different Marneus. They impale the Marine, and as he bleeds out they gloat. The warp they originally opened merged them into one being, but they've never wavered in their path. Marneus flashes back across a lifetime or more of brutal, bloody campaigns to maintain the empire of humanity. He knows he has something that they do not. A second heart due to his Marine surgeries. He tears Saravan's head off. He then throws Cato off the same ledge that young Tacitin and the first Marneus fell off of so long ago. He then blows them up. He finds Quintus alive. He managed a headshot on the heretic while only losing a cybernetic third arm in the process. They then take a moment to appreciate the Ultramarines landing and battling the Lord of Skulls and his heretics in a scene right out of a desktop miniatures battle. Marneus now knows that the heretic raids on the planet were meant to distract the Marines from the heretics' work on this moon retrieving the altar. However, the Black Altar was and is still missing. A mystery for another day as Marneus Calgar, Marine, joins his troops in wiping out the heretics who threaten the stability of the empire of mankind and the glorious reign of the God Emperor.
You'll forgive an Eldred for crying, but that Ultramarine ripping the head off that demonic mech made me long for the cherished days of the Empire. God save the Emperor, who is also God, so he can save himself. Okay, but seriously, there we have it. The first Marvel comic book to take on the Warhammer 40k universe. Full of decadence, violence, and even a bit of genuine heroism. But was it any good? Or was it a tool of chaos meant only to mislead and be bad? I always get too esoteric on the lead-ins to the analysis. Anywho, let's take a closer look at Warhammer 40k, Marneus Calgar.
Well, first off, the art by Jason Burrows is solid. He captures the look of the game perfectly, even going so far as to show us a battlescape that looks like it was lifted from an actual miniatures game. The Marine armor is all in proportion to other characters, the ships and monsters are all suitably mechanical or biological, and he's very good with facial expressions in the various landscapes. Is it an overly stylized or fancy art? No. But it's conveying a licensed property that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are a fan of. It needs to convey those things in a way that they can all accept and enjoy, and I think Burrows pulls that off. Like I said, it's solid, and the worst thing you could do for the first time you're putting out a licensed comic is have art that doesn't look like that license. Maybe later you can experiment, but for now you need to give the fans what they want, what they recognize, and he does that. As for the story by Gillen, it's obviously set in two parts, past and present. The present acts as more of a framing mechanism for the past, allowing Marneus to tell us his story and give us the surprise revelations about his past. It also lets us explore the recruitment and training processes of the Ultramarines, a facet that may not have been very well explored in the game manuals or books of Warhammer 40k. I think it's safe to say that the past is the better part of this story. In the present, the Marines are an unstoppable, unbeatable force. They mow through their enemies with zero resistance. Frankly, it's a little dull from the reader's perspective. Even the arrival of the King of Skulls presented as a big deal is blown off as Marneus deals with his old classmates and then returns to easily beat the king. The meat of the story is in the flashback, and while some may have seen it coming, I was caught off guard by the fact that it's Tacitan who is the modern-day Marneus. I guess I took it for granted that the guy named Marneus in the past was the Marneus in the future, although the way the name change is presented makes total sense. But it was kind of like reading Lord of the Rings and then finding out Sam becomes Frodo halfway through. The trainer also being an insane heretic was a nice twist. He's presented first as being driven by his bitterness, but then later we find out his bitterness and resentment has driven him insane, showing that dedication and insanity walks a fine line. Personality-wise, there wasn't much going on outside of Tacitan and Marneus Jr. The young Marneus is earnest and a bit blind in his faith of the Ultramarines, while clearly Tacitan is holding him up on such a pedestal, you have to wonder if you can really trust the narrative he's spinning in the present. Beyond that, almost everyone else is pretty one-dimensional. Saravan and Cato just come off as snobbish pricks. Hexamar talks a little too much and is mostly a coward, and beyond them, there weren't really any other characters for us to get to know. This book is not reinventing the wheel, rather it's introducing the wheel to a new corner of the world. There have been other Warhammer 40k comics, but this is the first time a company with the reach and prestige of Marvel has published one of their books, and that's going to draw in two new audiences. The Warhammer faithful who want to see what Marvel does with this, and those fans of Marvel and or Keiron Gillen who just want to read what the creator or publisher is doing even if they have no particular attachment to the Warhammer saga. In either case, Marneus Calgar is a positive but not revolutionary experience. Gillen writes a tale that's solidly set in the universe and gives us some unexpected twists in the backstory to one of its heroes, without otherwise upsetting the apple cart of established Warhammer lore. There's nothing in it too radical to turn off the fans of the franchise, and for readers like me who aren't that invested in Warhammer 40k, it's a fun sci-fi story with a few nice twists and turns, but nothing I read here is making me clamor to read the upcoming Sisters of Battle miniseries that Marvel's putting out in August of 2021.
And that's my take on Marneus Calgar. I'll go back to a word I used several times in this review, solid. This is a solid book, story and art-wise, but I doubt it's going to end up on anyone's best comics list. I give Warhammer 40,000 Marneus Calgar, issues 1 through 5, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Just hoping I won't have to have numerous surgeries, gene therapies, and undergo centuries of war with violent heretics just to get you the next review. This is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, Brian Heinz.